What's up, Wizards? Deb from the place down there where we enjoy a spot of magic. Yes, we do. And today I'm super animated and excited because we've got Jeskai. I was reminded the other day that we've never done Jeskai. Why? That's dumb. I love this combination, man. America, red, white, and blue. Jeskai, I think, is actually one of the best decks in the entire format right now. It consistently top 8s events. So I'm going to give you two different versions, actually. I'm going to give you the tournament-ready version that I have researched up and down and left and right and have been surprised a little bit by the results of said research. And I'm going to give you a $30 budget Jeskai aggro deck so that everyone can play Jeskai. Good deck first. We're playing 18 creatures in this, which is a little more than Jeskai will play some of the time. You know, some Jeskai decks will play 12 creatures, some decks will play 14, some will play 16, some will play 20, but for the most part, you're going to get a lower creature count in Jeskai. We're playing 4 copies of Abbot of Keral. Keep. Notice that we've skipped the 1-drop slot completely. This surprised the hell out of me when I was researching for the deck. Haven't looked at Jeskai lists in a month or so, and it turns out they've all dropped Monastery Swiftspear. I didn't see it in a single top 8 deck that I looked in, which was a lot. I've probably looked at 35 or so Jeskai decks over the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, no Monastery Swiftspear in any of them. That just blew my freaking mind. Blew my head off my shoulders. But, yeah, we're starting with Abbot of Keral Keep. Obviously a fairly similar card. But, yeah, just being able to draw the card, and this is a great late game top deck, makes this awesome. You know, we'll see that this is an aggro deck that goes really long and somewhat wide, even though we're only playing 18 creatures. You'll see why. Abbot of Keral Keep is really good for all the stuff we needed to do, namely draw us cards and be a fairly quick creature. 4 copies of Soulfire Grandmaster, SGM. Playset of this in pretty much every Jeskai deck that I saw. Sean McLaren ran 2 and replaced them with Hangarback Walkers. Soulfire is just crazy. Really makes the deck tick a couple of ways. Well, one way especially, we can get her back if she dies. That's very important. Helps us go very long, much longer than we would normally go in a deck like this, and is just absolutely needed. Totally playset of SGM. 3 copies, and you'll sometimes see 4. I'm just playing 3 of Jace, Vryn's Prodigy. I'm not as high on Jace as a lot of people are, although I do love Jace. Don't misinterpret that. I love Jace. I just don't know about a 4 of in a deck like this, although he's been played to great results as a playset in a lot of Jeskai decks. But Jace, you know, obviously another thing helps go a little bit longer. Drawing cards is something that this deck absolutely wants, you know, while he's still a creature. Good on defense, sure. Once he becomes a Planeswalker, that +1 is fine, but we're mostly interested in that -3 to get cards back, which is just, between Soulfire Grandmaster and Jace, we can replay our cards a lot, and that's what we want to do, definitely. A lot of Jeskai decks employ a toolbox strategy where they'll just play 1 to 2 ofs a lot of cards, and you can see why. You know, Jace and Soulfire will help you replay cards over and over, and, so you can play less copies of them. And Jace has been very good, but usually you just -3 him once, maybe twice, and he's served his purpose. But he draws you a couple of cards while you get there, so just Jace does all the things. 2 copies of Monastery Mentor, which is not necessarily a rarity in Jeskai decks, but is not played as often as, some other cards. This is the thing that sort of makes the difference between 16 and 18 creatures. I really wanted to play Monastery Mentor, seen it pop up in a couple of Jeskai lists, and I can see why. That's the thing that helps us go wide, by the way. Obviously against control decks if it resolves, even, slower devotion and ramp-based decks, this is pretty fine against 2s. I really liked playing Monastery Mentor. 4 copies of Mantis Rider, which is a must, it turns out. You gotta have a play set of the Mantis, because he's crazy, right? 3 mana for all of that. What an amazing investment. For just 3 mana, you get 3 abilities, 3 power, 3 toughness. Play the freaking guy. Haste and vigilance on this thing is just absolutely crazy. And 1 copy of Dragonlord Ojutai. You'll often see Stormbreath Dragon in these builds, but obviously we're not playing anything from Theros or M15, we have to replace it. I think Dragonlord Ojutai is definitely the thing that will. We see it in a couple of builds. Some people play 2 Stormbreath, 1 Ojutai, or one of each. Sometimes you'll see 2 Ojutai, but it's very rare. And Ojutai is definitely good. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, this is a basic Jeskai aggro, top of the curve creature right here, and it goes on defense well, plays offense very well, and ends the game super well. So yeah, love Ojutai, always have. 7 17 spells, 4 copies of Wild Slash to start things off. Not every Jeskai deck plays Wild Slash. My playstyle is I want to play cards that can also burn their face, because I want to end the game in a situation where, you know, they're 2 or 4 life, and we just have to finish. We've got to finish. Although the deck does a pretty good job of finishing, honestly. Especially with cards like Soulfire Grandmaster, that's a great finisher, you know, just buy back the same burn thing every turn. And Wild Slash is really good for helping us in the early game when we don't have any 1-drops, so I do like the Slash. 3 copies of Valorous Stance and 1 copy of Roast. Roast helps us take out things that are really, really close to the ground and kills the Siege Rhino. Valorous Stance kills the Siege Rhino and things that are really, really high above the ground, you know, which we'll see a lot of in the upcoming format, definitely. But, you know, obviously, I do like Valorous Stance more in this situation. Not only because we're running Ojutai, but because we can protect all our guys. Soulfire Grandmaster is definitely a target in this deck, so it helps protect her too. And your Jace when he's a creature, just really, really good play out of this card, and helps us kill huge dudes. Roast will help us kill things that are much lower to the ground too. It's very, very good against mono red aggro, other aggro decks, things like that. So I want to play some amount of both of these cards. I think it's more important to play Val Stance though. 2 Jeskai Charm in this ting right here. Jeskai Charm's awesome. It's just stupid awesome. You know, I was playing 3 copies of it forever, but then decided that with Soulfire in the deck, we don't necessarily need to play all the copies of it. After you have a Soulfire out and have her secured, then really extra copies of this isn't the best thing ever, you know. 4 damage to the face is really good, but giving our whole team the bonus there, +1/+1 life thing, that's crazy. Like, that's absolutely going to win us an awful lot of games, and or put the game out of reach. You know, if we can just gain, you know, 8 to 10 life off of something like this, then we have really, really put it out of reach for a lot of decks. So, gotta play Jeskai Charm. It's actually one of my favorite charms. 1 copy of Exquisite Firecraft in the deck. Just want to go through that really quick. Really, really good to recast with Jace. Can end the game in a hurry. Kills a lot of the important cards in the format. I know, not Siege Rhino, but you're against Control, which is a matchup that we also have problems in. So I think there's a lot of reasons to at least play the singleton copy of Exquisite Firecraft. 3 copies of Ojutai's Command. This was 2 for a long time. A lot of Jeskai decks started playing 3. This is very, very good, not only against aggro, not only against control, but, I mean, this is why it's good against control, honestly, and, you know, decks that want to burn your dudes out, is because getting back a Jace, or specifically a Soulfire Grandmaster, very, very good deal. Really good deal. Especially directly just onto the battlefield, that's very, very good. A lot of people weren't sure at the beginning of the season, or at least when the card came out, if it was going to see any play. You know, some people are saying blue-white control, blah, but it took a long time for it to get into Jeskai, and once it did, people started realizing how amazing the card is. Just all the value in the world, you know, sometimes you just put the guy back on the battlefield, draw a card. You know, counter a spell, draw a card, creature spell, draw a card. Lots and lots of things that you can do with this, and always have an option with it, or 2, so yes. 1 Dig Through Time and 2 Treasure Cruise. Usually this is flipped, but since we're post-rotation here and we're losing the Scry lands, don't worry, we will get Tango lands. But just in this specific iteration of the deck, I like Treasure Cruise a little bit more because we don't make blue mana very well, you know. We could make it a little bit better is all I'm saying. So I do like Treasure Cruise a little bit more sometimes, you know. Obviously we make the 2 blue mana. Dig is really good. We can always buy these cards back with Soulfire Grandmaster. That's pretty awesome. We can always recast them with Jace. That's pretty awesome. So we need some form of card advantage in a Jeskai deck. It's sort of a key part of the deck. So you can mix and match these copies of the cards if you want to play 2 Dig and 1 Cruise. I totally understand that, but I like Treasure Cruise better because it's so much more splashable than something like this. 25 lands in the deck, yeah, we lose Scry lands, but we can still play, you know, gain life tap lands and stuff like that. We will get Tango lands in the upcoming format, so this is sort of a preliminary land list, but I think we do in this deck want to play 25 lands. I feel like that's important. And here's the sideboard. The sideboard's very important for this Jeskai deck. Lots of, you know, 1 and 2 of copies to deal with specific things we're playing. Disdainful Stroke, that's very good. Roast, very good against, you know, the same kind of deck. Roast is also good against mono red aggro, so, but we've got to have the option of Disdainful Stroke for decks that go way over us and we can't burn out and stuff like that. Hangarback Walker, a very, very important card against, again, mono red aggro and control. Just both of those decks have a hard time dealing with the card. Very good 2-drop. Hangarback Walker is. And here's your power rankings, highest power rankings in a while. A final score of 70 points at the end of the day. That's because it's one of the most versatile decks in the entire format. We see that a lot of its cards are geared towards offense or defense, depending on what you want to do with them. You know, Soulfire Grandmaster, that's a defensive card because, you know, your things with that burn have lifelink. That's defensive. But also, its buyback ability helps to be an offensive card. You recast those same burn spells over and over. Same thing with Monastery Mentor, you know, that can go wide and chump block for you, or you can just swing in with a bunch of tokens. Dragonlord Ojutai, good on offense and defense. Valorous Stance, obviously offense and defense on that card too. Ojutai's Command, we can, you know, put a creature back in, or we can counterspell, gain some life, draw a card. This works. A lot of these cards are super versatile, very choice driven, and allow you to play either defensively or offensively. So this is one of the most versatile decks in the format that does a lot of things depending on what situation you're in, which helps it. I'm going to call this deck, at least the power rankings for it, Lucky Sevens, an awful lot of sevens for the deck, which means that it does a lot of things pretty well, honestly, but not much like super duper well. It's just very, very utility in a lot of ways and able to deal with a lot of different deck types. Well, that was the big boy. I'm going to go ahead and give you the budget guy right here, which I know a lot of people are excited for. This is going to cost you about $30. It's very, very difficult to build on the $10 or $20 budget for something like Jeskai. Most 3-color decks, it can be hard to build on that kind of budget. But we're going to go ahead and give it a shot here. I actually think this deck is very good, and it's much more offensively minded than the first deck, even. 13 creatures in this deck, which is more like it for Jeskai aggro, it turns out. A lot of them will play, again, you know, 12 to 16 creatures. So something like this, it seems low, but it's really not compared to a lot of the things I've seen. 4 copies of Monastery Swiftspear. The girl is back in this one. I had to play her. Especially since we're going much, much lower and faster is the goal in this deck. Much more lean, so definitely want to play 4 copies of Swiftspear. 2 copies of Secret of the Way. I want to get that out of the way. Yeah, that was weird to say. Rhymes. Secret of the Way. Awesome, right? I don't have to really discuss this too much. It's just, you know, prowess-based deck. And to that effect, we're also playing 3 copies of Mage Ring Bully because Abbot of Keral Keep is really expensive. If you have those, or the money for them, definitely play Abbot over Mage Ring Bully. But Mage Ring Bully, a pretty suitable substitute. It may as well be a, you know, 2-mana 3/3 a lot of the time, especially on our turn. So I really, really like the card. It's sort of another Seeker of the Way, or a bad Abbot of Keral Keep. And finish it off, 4 copies of Mantis Rider. I was super impressed that this dropped down to $1. It used to be, you know, $7 or $8, and was even more than that for a small amount of time. But yeah, you can pick these up at TCG Player for $1 now. I highly suggest, fully endorse that you do that. So yeah, I mean, $1 for this is a crazy deal. That's one of the better creatures in the format. Play a playset of this all day. When I first looked this up, I was like, oh, there's no way we can afford a playset in this deck. But yeah, we can. It turns out to do it. 23 spells in the deck, which is also, again, more like it for a deck like this. 4 copies of Wild Slash and 1 copy of Fiery Impulse. Again, we're trying to go really, really low, and not only does this help us blow away creatures in the early game to clear room for our guys, but also can burn to the face in the later game. Or against control, we can just burn into the face, our Druid's Prowess, we swing in. I mean, everybody knows how good that is. Against control, the first, you know, 3 turns, we can really do a lot of damage. Speaking of cards that only cost 1 or 2, we're playing 4 copies of Titan Strength and 2 copies of Defiant Strike. Now you see what kind of deck this is. It's one of these. Yeah, Titan Strength and Defiant Strike is 2 of the better cards in the format for swinging in, if that's what we want to do, at very, very low on the curve. To go along with the theme of cards that kill them as quickly as possible, we've got 3 copies of Temur Battle Rage in the deck, which I know a lot of people will be pretty happy about. I am, it turns out. You know, imagine a situation where 3rd turn you can Titan Strength and then Temur Battle Rage something that prowess is. I mean, it's just, it gets out of hand really, really fast. And one of our dudes goes unblocked, even if it's a small guy, then we can definitely, you know, play one thing, Defiant Strike or something, then play this. That dude will prowess twice, get the +1/+0 from Defiant Strike, and then just go crazy with the Temur Battle Rage. I mean, the card gets very crazy, very quick, and it's super dangerous. 3 copies of Jeskai Charm I'm playing the full 3 of in this deck because, you know, we don't have like Soulfire Grandmaster or Jace. We can't recast them or buy them back or anything. I think it's important to play a few copies of this card, right? Not only because we can, that our whole team gets +1/+1 in lifelink is just insane in a deck like this where, you know, we're prowessing and we can, you know, Temur Battle Rage, there's the Titan Strength, plus the lifelink on this is very good, and we can deal 4 damage to the face. Or we can play it somewhat defensively too. So Jeskai Charm is just crazy in something like this. Play it. We're playing 3 copies of Valorous Stance and 1 copy of Rose for the exact same reasons I stated in the last deck there. Just all the choice afforded to us by Valorous Stance and blows away creatures that murder us in combat higher up on the curve. And Roast is really versatile, kills the Rhino and everything in between. So yes. 2 copies of Treasure Cruise to finish it out here. Yeah, we need a little bit less card drawing in this deck because we're playing Defiant Strike. That's not not so bad. And we're very singularly focused, you know, we just want aggro, 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 and we can't play all these high mana, even with the Delve, card drawing things. Obviously, a little bit later in the game, this will only cost us 1 to 2 mana, you know, and we'll help refill our hand, which is very important for an aggro deck like this. We're playing 23 lands in this deck. We can go much lower than we did in the last deck. We're not trying to, you know, cast Dragonlord Ojutai. We're not trying to buy stuff back with Soulfire Grandmaster. We're not trying to play Ojutai's command over and over. So really, we can go much, much lower in this deck as we're playing a lot of 1 and 2 mana cost things. 23 lands has been more than enough. Finally, here's the sideboard. This deck also lives out of the sideboard. I've included Twin Bolt in the deck against other aggro and Hangarback Walker. It's a good card against that card. Enshrouding Mist, a very, very good card, and replaces God's Willing once that rotates out of the format. And some of these Jeskai aggro decks will play like one God's Willing still, but it's not a very popular card anymore. Now, Enshrouding Mist is going to be pretty decent in a lot of matchups, especially against decks that want to just block you or attack into you even. And it's cool that we get the +1/+1, we get the +1/+1, the prowess, you know, and they won't take any damage. So it's just awesome. Good card. And here are the power rankings for this deck. A final score of 60, which is really, really good for a budget deck. That's quite good, it turns out, for something you can build for 30, couple of, you know, 32 bucks, something like that. But there is still a 10-point difference between this and the other deck, which is that's a huge difference. We do take a drop in the versatility and resiliency categories because, again, we can't buy stuff back, we can't recast things, you know. So we take a huge hit in that category. And we lose Ojutai's command, which also hurts our versatility and resiliency. So yeah, but Ojutai's command is only like $2 right now. I think it's like $2.50 on TCG players, so scoop those up if you can. And I probably could have snuck one copy in here without hurting the budget too much, but it is a very important card for the deck. We are better in the speed and offense categories because we're more purely devoted to those things, and we're still pretty consistent. So the deck is very good for a budget deck, especially, that's not a word, but anyway, you know, we just did a few budget decks that scored, you know, 52 to 56 on that scale, so a 60 is very, very good, and this keeps a lot of the good things about the regular Jeskai deck, although it loses some of the good things too. You know, Soulfire Grandmaster, Ojutai's command, I can say those until I'm blue in the face, Jace, you know, so we do lose some things, but it's still a very good deck, and it's very good for people who like to swing in, which is, that's me. That's all I've got for today. Soon I've got to catch you up on some of these spoilers, and we've got a bunch of deck techs coming your way, including, you know, green-red ramp post-rotation once we get a few more of these spoilers out, mono-red aggro post-rotation. I know a lot of people want that. I'm thinking about doing, let me know how you feel about this. I've already done Mardu goggles. I'm thinking about doing, very soon here, Jund goggles. I saw this list on Star City not long ago, and it intrigued me. Jund goggles is really, really cool. I almost passed out when I saw that. And I want to do Mardu dragons too. So there's a lot on our plate. Let me know what you want the most. I'm kind of rooting for Mardu dragons too, just so you know. But in any case, let me know what you want to do next, and we will promptly put that out. My name is Dev. If you enjoyed the content, like, share, comment, subscribe, helps us out like a lot, like an awful lot. That's what every YouTube channel asks you to do that. There's a reason for that, because it helps them. And we want the help. We want your help. So yeah, anyway, I'm Dev from SVMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.